It's a pleasure. I must tell you, it's a pleasure having spent so much time with you the last several months in a rather transactionally based environment, trying to get a deal done. It's really a pleasure to have this conversation with you without that pressure looming over us today. So thank you very much.
Of course, Irwin. We spent probably way too much time together from your standpoint over the last few
months. Never too much time. Never too much time, Shervin. But again, it's a pleasure. So why don't we jump right in, Shervin? Legends, with its very broad range of venue-focused services and its 360-degree platform, being so diverse, servicing entertainment clients, sports clients, and attractions-based clients. What does it mean to return to the stands from the vantage of Legends? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, Irwin, look, when this sort of unfolded last year, almost a year ago, one of the first things we did was we launched a new division within the company, and that was the venue reintegration platform. Really sort of focused on, we didn't know what was going on. We had to go do a lot of diligence. We had to go bring in the right partners to better understand, for when the time did come, on how we were going to bring employees back into the venues, how we were going to bring, some of the athletes back safely within the venues from an operational standpoint, and then ultimately how to bring the fans back. So that platform really set the stage for us to be able to be in a position we're in now. So we've been preparing for this, quite frankly, for a full year. And I think we've kind of put ourselves in a position where we're uniquely qualified because of the platform business we have across all the different business lines. So I would just tell you that, it's a marriage, quite frankly, between the science of it, the operational aspect, I think the fan experience, technology, and we can talk about that a little bit as well. And then, quite frankly, common sense, right? I think there's a fair amount of common sense that goes into this. As we learn more, certainly over the last 12 months, I think there's a lot more common sense that comes into it as far as what you can and can't do. And you kind of put that all together. And what we've seen within the limited engagements we've had with fans, certainly some locations more so than others, is it's yielded us, quite frankly, significant increase in per caps, both on our sports side, but also on our attraction side of our business. So that's really for return to the stands. It's a phased approach, and we're utilizing our platform to help our current customers and clients.
And how are you prioritizing the resolution of these various issues that you're facing? I mean, it's just from the vantage of the, somebody that's not inside the boardroom, and you obviously are, it just seems like a total morass of issues that you must be facing. And so how do you prioritize that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, look, I mean, the fact is we operate in almost every state, depending on which business line we're talking about. And, I think this is not a problem just unique to sports entertainment. I think this is true across the board. Each state has their own sort of guidelines. The CDC has its own guidelines. Oftentimes they sort of sync up, but oftentimes they don't, and they conflict. And so we're constantly trying to evaluate and customize the solution within each sort of municipality and within each sort of client location to make sure that we're adhering to their specific guidelines that they have to follow. But as a precaution, we've really done one thing that I think has been across the board, which is we've divided our workforce into like groups and pods, so that if there is, for example, a quarantine measure from a precautionary standpoint that comes in and gets triggered, we can sort of isolate that pod and make sure that the entire workforce isn't triggered. So there are some things that some best practices that we've applied across the board, regardless of the location. And then obviously we have to customize based on the specific asset and the health department within that specific municipality.
Yeah. One thing that I must tell you that was really very, very impressive, at least, to me, was the fact that during a 1-in-100-year pandemic, Legends was able to close a significant investment by 6th Street in the company. And from all external reports, that certainly seems to, provide great heft to the balance sheet of Legends and capital and so forth. How do you see that increased heft? To say it very, very plainly, how do you see that increased heft benefiting Legends as we go forward?
Well, Irwin, as you probably know better than most, since you've been with the company from its inception back in 2008, 2009, we've grown this business purely organically. So there's not been a lot of M&A, and as a result, when we went into the pandemic a year ago, we weren't over levered at all. Our balance sheet was very clean. It really allowed us to think strategically as we went in to sort of the lockdown, if you will, and sort of business stopping. It allowed us to think more sort of like for the now and in an aggressive way and sort of proactively. And I think Sixth Street, certainly great partner. We got connected with them late summer, early fall. They just had this very similar mindset of how they saw the business and how it was going to rebound, how we were well positioned within the industry from a platform standpoint. And they brought many things, but one of the things that they brought to the table is another arrow in our quiver. We can now come in and help our clients, both existing and new clients, with not only sort of this unique platform that we have of best-in-class services, but you also bring in sort of the capital, because so many of the teams and the leagues and the universities, obviously with revenue sort of coming to a halt, they do need some potentially help, like in the short term and the medium term. And there are ways that maybe we can help them out as we go forward. So, that certainly is a part of what they brought to the table. And quite frankly, the other big piece of this is just continuing to enforce the infrastructure and the unique solutions that we have in the marketplace. That just will better serve us and ultimately will better serve our clients and our partners.
And I guess, being so diverse and over throughout the United States and overseas, are you detecting a very significant difference in the way things are being handled and the way things are being managed from your vantage?
You mean as far as municipalities and different sort of locations?
Well, look, you're over in Spain, you're over in the UK, you're over in the US, all over the US. I mean, it's quite a broad reach, and managing through, again, a global pandemic has got to, present its unique challenges and perhaps opportunities.
Yeah, no, it's certainly, when you're talking about just within the 50 state, like you're talking about different countries sometimes within our own United States, and then you go overseas into the international marketplace. Certainly Europe has had its own sort of challenges, different phases within all that. And so, yeah, we've had to sort of approach, each market in a different way. But look, Irwin, the reality is we're all about customization. The company is. And what works, for example, in Los Angeles may not necessarily work in Dallas or New York. That also applies to the international space. So within each market, you have to really roll up your sleeves, lock arms with your client and with your partner and figure it out for that marketplace. And I think that's what we've done. And I think the way that we've been set up as a business has allowed us to just organically and authentically be able to do that, as we've gone through the last 12 months.
Yeah. So let's just talk about that. What do you see for the next month, 2 or 3, as far as a future for returning to the stands? What does Legends envision there?
Yeah, I mean, look, I see some locations are starting to open up much quicker than others. If you look at what happened in Texas and Florida with our venues there, they certainly were more sort of on their front foot as far as, capacity and what they were willing to do over the last several months. New York, Los Angeles, a little bit more conservative. California overall, a little bit more conservative in the way that they approach things. But what we did see, and regardless of whether now it's in Texas, and I think Jerry Jones has already indicated that, they fully expect to have full capacity for the NFL season going forward. I think the Texas Rangers are already sort of anticipating doing that with opening day. We're going to approach it the same way, which is we have to use our technology and what we've learned over the last several months. Let's take, for example, the food and beverage hospitality component. We've had to redesign retail spaces, more grab and go. There's less buffet style approaches. We're doing more frictionless and cashless sort of environments. That's creating more velocity as far as transactions. That's part of the reason we've seen a 20 to 40% increase in the average transaction values over the last, called 4 or 5 months when we have had fans in the stands. So whether it's a 30% capacity all the way to 100% capacity, we're going to implement the same concepts that we've learned about and accelerated here over the last 12 months as we get back to normalcy. And look, our hope for the entire industry, we're all together. This is one big platform. This is not about competition. We all want to get back sooner rather than later. And certainly our hope and expectation is as we get into the summer months, Major League Baseball is going to get higher and higher capacity across all the different markets that are out there. And then when we get into the fall with the NFL season, with some of the music sort of opportunities that we're involved with Live Nation, all of that's going to come back and come back in space. And when it does come back, the key thing for us as an industry to be able to do is make sure that the consumer, the fan, the customer has the confidence. So forget about the capacity for a second. We'll get to the capacity. It's to make sure that the fan has the confidence that when they come into these venues, they come into these sort of areas, that they feel comfortable, they feel safe, they feel like things have been done in the appropriate way to create an environment where they're healthy and safe, and they're going to have a great fan experience.
And I suppose, Legends being what it does has got to be on the forefront of those types of what I'll call innovations. Can you speak about some of these things that, in a broad sense, what are some of these things that we should expect to see going forward in this, call it, new paradigm?
Sure. I mean, we've worked with partners. I think it was announced yesterday. There's companies that are working on how do you screen people, like Cleared for Work. It's a company that is working with the Angels and with the Yankees. They're also implementing AT&T Stadium and at SoFi Stadium. It's a sort of digital system by which you can pre-screen employees coming in. You can pre-screen certain the fan base coming in. So these are the types of things that before they even get to the venue, you're using technology to be able to sort of screen them and get them through the system a lot quicker. And then once they're within your sort of the confines of your venue, like I said, cashless transactions. I think this is where everything was going even pre-pandemic. But man, the last 12 months have expedited that process incredibly. So I think by and large, most venues that we know of will be cashless as we move forward. The other thing is making sure that things are frictionless. So how you create lines, how you have grab and go sort of opportunities, how retail is sold within these venues. All of that, we're going to be smarter. We're going to be better than we ever have been before. And so there is some good that we'll try to all take from the last 12 months and the pain that we've all suffered from.